My son fell at the playground, tumbling straight toward the concrete path where scooters zipped by like bullets. Before I could even scream his name, a tall stranger lunged forward, scooping Noah into his arms and rolling safely onto the grass with my boy held tight against his chest. I reached them in seconds, heart hammering so hard I could barely breathe, and pulled Noah close while the man stood up, brushing dirt from his jeans with a calm smile. "He's okay, just a little scared," the stranger said, his voice steady and warm like he did this every day. His name was Jordan Hale, 35, an architect who lived 2 blocks over in our quiet Chicago suburb. I was Ryan Thompson, 32, a single dad who had been barely holding it together since my wife Sarah died 3 years earlier in a highway pileup. Noah, 6 years old and full of endless energy, was all I had left. We sat on the bench while Noah caught his breath, coloring with the crayons I always kept in my bag. Jordan asked simple questions about Noah's favorite superheroes and laughed when my son insisted he could fly if he tried harder next time. Something in Jordan's easy laugh and the way his blue eyes stayed kind, even when I stumbled over my thank yous, made the knot in my chest loosen for the first time in months. I hadn't talked to another adult about anything real since the funeral. Most days it was just work, daycare, dinner, and try not to think about how empty the apartment felt. Jordan handed me his phone. "Put your number in. I'll text you the name of that safer playground across town if you want." No pressure. I typed it in before my brain could argue. That night, after Noah was asleep, I stared at the new contact for a long time. The message came an hour later. "Glad the little guy is all right. Coffee tomorrow? My treat for the heroics." I typed yes and hit send before I could overthink it. The next morning we met at the corner cafe. Noah colored quietly at our table, while Jordan and I talked about everything and nothing. He told me about designing community centers that actually felt welcoming, and I told him about the accounting firm that paid the bills but never filled the silence at home. When our eyes met over the coffee cups, something flickered, warm and unfamiliar. I told myself it was gratitude, nothing more. I had loved Sarah. I was straight. I was a dad. Those were the facts I had built my life on. But as we walked back to the playground, Jordan's hand brushed mine while we helped Noah onto the slide, and I felt the spark again. That evening my phone buzzed with a photo he had taken of Noah laughing on the swing. "Thought you might want this memory," the text read. I saved it immediately. For the first time in years, I went to bed thinking about someone else's smile instead of the empty side of the bed. The following weekend, Jordan invited us to a small neighborhood barbecue at his place. His backyard was simple, string lights and burgers on the grill. A few of his friends were there, laughing easily, and for the first time, I didn't feel like the awkward widower everyone pitied. Noah ran around with the other kids, while Jordan and I stood at the grill talking about our favorite childhood books. Well, he looked at me and said, "You're doing a hell of a job with him, Ryan." The compliment landed somewhere deep I hadn't let anyone reach. Driving home that night, Noah asleep in the back seat, I caught myself smiling at the memory of Jordan's laugh. The feeling scared me more than the fall had. I pulled into the driveway and sat in the dark for a long time, whispering to the steering wheel, "What is happening to me?" I had spent years convincing myself the quiet questions I pushed down in high school were gone. They weren't. They were just waiting for the right stranger to pull them into the light. Monday morning at work, I kept checking my phone, hoping for another message from Jordan. When it came, it was simple. "Noah's still talking about flying. Want to meet at the park after school?" I said yes before lunch. We spent the afternoon watching Noah chase pigeons while Jordan and I sat on the bench talking about our families. He told me his parents had moved to Florida and accepted him exactly as he was. I told him mine still lived in the same Chicago bungalow where I grew up and still asked every Sunday when I was going to find a nice girl and give Noah a mom. Jordan didn't push. He just listened, and when Noah scraped his knee, Jordan was the one who had the Band-Aids in his pocket. That small kindness cracked something open. On the walk home, Noah held both our hands, swinging between us, and for a second it felt like a family picture I had never let myself imagine. That night my mother called. "Ryan, honey, Mrs. Henderson's daughter is back in town. Pretty stable, loves kids. You should meet her." I made an excuse and hung up, chest tight. I opened a photo Jordan had sent and stared at it until the screen dimmed. The next day, I canceled the blind date my mother tried to set up. Instead, I texted Jordan and asked if he wanted to grab pizza with us. He said yes instantly. Over pepperoni and breadsticks, Noah asked Jordan why he didn't have a wife. Jordan smiled gently. I like men the way your dad liked your mom. Noah just shrugged and asked for more cheese. I froze, but Jordan kept the conversation light, and the moment passed. Later, when Noah was in the bathroom, Jordan looked at me and said, "You don't have to explain anything to me, Ryan. I just like spending time with you too." His honesty felt like fresh air I hadn't known I needed. The weeks blurred into a comfortable rhythm. Jordan helped Noah with a school project about bridges, and I found myself looking forward to our evenings more than anything else. One Friday after Noah was asleep, Jordan stayed late, and we sat on my tiny balcony with 2 beers. He told me about the partner he had lost to cancer 5 years ago, how the grief had taught him to stop hiding who he was. I told him about the nights I still woke up reaching for Sarah and how guilty that made me feel. Our knees touched on the small chairs, and neither of us moved away. When he left, he hugged me at the door. It lasted a second longer than friendly, and I didn't pull back. That night, I lay awake wondering how something so simple could feel so terrifying and so right at the same time. My best friend, Mike, noticed the change at our weekly basketball game. "You seem lighter, man. Seeing someone." I laughed it off, but the lie tasted sour. The next Sunday dinner at my parents' house, my father asked the usual question about dating. I changed the subject, but my mother's disappointed sigh followed me home. Noah asked why Grandma looked sad. I didn't have an answer that wouldn't break both our worlds. Jordan texted goodnight with a silly meme about architects and dads. I smiled in the dark and typed back, "Thank you for being you." The reply came immediately. "Thank you for letting me." For the first time, I let myself wonder what it would feel like to stop running from the truth I had buried since I was Noah's age. The summer heat settled over Chicago, and our afternoons at the playground became routine. Jordan brought sunscreen and extra water bottles without being asked. Noah started calling him Uncle Jay, and the name fit so naturally it scared me. One Saturday, we took Noah to the zoo. Jordan carried him on his shoulders when his legs got tired, and the sight of them laughing together made my chest ache with a longing I couldn't name. On the train ride home, Noah fell asleep against Jordan's side, and Jordan rested his hand lightly on my knee. Neither of us spoke, but the touch said everything. That evening after Noah was in bed, we sat on the couch watching a documentary neither of us cared about. Jordan turned to me and said quietly, "I'm not asking for anything you're not ready to give, Ryan, but I need you to know I feel something real here." I swallowed hard and told him I felt it too, that it terrified me because I had spent my whole life believing I was supposed to want the life I had lost with Sarah. He didn't push. He just took my hand and held it until I stopped shaking. The next week, my sister came to visit from out of town. She noticed how often Jordan's name came up and cornered me in the kitchen. "Ryan, are you seeing him?" I denied it too quickly. She didn't believe me. "You look happy for the first time since Sarah. Don't throw that away because you're scared of what Mom and Dad will say." Her words stayed with me long after she left. Work became harder to focus on. I caught myself daydreaming about Jordan's laugh during conference calls. One afternoon, my boss pulled me aside and asked if everything was okay at home. I lied again. The guilt was starting to pile up like bricks on my chest. Jordan invited us to his sister's lake house for the 4th of July weekend. I said yes before I could talk myself out of it. The drive up was filled with Noah's excited chatter and Jordan's terrible singing along to the radio. At the lake, we swam and roasted marshmallows. Late that night, after Noah was asleep in the guest room, Jordan and I sat on the dock with our feet in the water. Fireworks exploded overhead, and when he leaned in and kissed me for the first time, soft and careful, the world didn't end. It felt like coming home. I pulled back, tears in my eyes. "I don't know how to do this," I whispered. He wiped my cheek with his thumb. "We figure it out together. No rush." The rest of the weekend passed in a haze of stolen glances and quiet touches when Noah wasn't looking. On the drive home, I realized I was happier than I had been in years, and the fear that came with that happiness was the price I would have to pay. Back in the city, the reality of my double life hit hard. I introduced Jordan to Mike as a friend from the playground, but Mike saw right through it. Dude, you're glowing. Just be careful with your folks. The warning sat heavy. My parents invited us for Sunday dinner, and I brought Jordan along as Noah's new buddy. My mother was polite, but cool. My father barely spoke to him. Later, my mother pulled me aside. He seems nice, but you need to think about Noah. Boys need a mother figure. I bit my tongue so hard it bled. The misunderstanding came 2 weeks later. Jordan had a work deadline and canceled our usual Friday pizza night. I misinterpreted his short texts as distance and spent the evenings spiraling. When he showed up Saturday morning with coffee and apologies, I snapped at him for the first time. I'm not ready for whatever this is if you're going to disappear. He looked hurt but stayed calm. I'm not disappearing, Ryan. I'm right here, waiting for you to decide what you want. We talked for hours after Noah went to bed. I admitted how scared I was of losing custody or being labeled the gay dad at school events. Jordan shared stories of his own coming out struggles. By the end, we were holding each other on the couch, and the wall I had built cracked a little more. School started again. Noah's teacher mentioned in passing that Noah had drawn a picture of me, Daddy, and Uncle Jay at the park. I panicked and told her it was just a family friend. The lie tasted worse every time. One evening, Jordan met me after work, and we walked along the lakefront. He said quietly, "I love you, Ryan. Not just Noah. You." The words hung in the cool air. I couldn't say them back yet, but I squeezed his hand and hoped he understood. The first real test came when my parents announced they were moving back to the old neighborhood to be closer to Noah. My mother started dropping by unannounced. One afternoon, she walked in while Jordan was helping Noah with homework at the kitchen table. The look on her face said everything. That night, she called crying. "Ryan, what are you doing to that boy? Think about Sarah. Think about what people will say." I hung up and cried in the shower so Noah wouldn't hear. Jordan held me later without asking questions. "Whenever you're ready, I'm here. No matter what." His patience was the anchor I needed and the mirror I feared. The confrontation exploded at Thanksgiving. My parents hosted. Jordan came because Noah begged him to. Halfway through dinner, my father asked point blank, "Are you two together?" The table went silent. I froze. Jordan looked at me, giving me the choice. I took a shaky breath and said, "Yes, we are." My mother dropped her fork. My father stood up, face red. "After everything we taught you? After Sarah? You're choosing this." Noah started crying. I took him outside while Jordan stayed calm and tried to explain. When I came back and my parents were packing food to go, my mother said, "We love you, Ryan, but we won't watch you confuse our grandson." They left without saying goodbye. The silence in the house afterward was deafening. Jordan stayed the night on the couch. I sat on the floor beside him, head in my hands. I just lost my parents. He pulled me close. "You didn't lose Noah. You didn't lose me. That's a start." The next weeks were brutal. My sister called to say Mom was crying every day. Work colleagues whispered when they saw Jordan pick me up for lunch. Noah came home from school one day, asking why Grandma said Daddy was making bad choices. I sat him down and told him the simplest words I could, that I loved Jordan the way I had loved Mommy, and that love wasn't bad. He thought about it, then said, "Uncle Jay makes you smile like Mommy did." I like that. His acceptance broke me in the best way. Jordan's family welcomed us with open arms over Christmas. His mother hugged me like I had always belonged. Watching Noah open presents, surrounded by people who didn't flinch at our relationship, gave me a glimpse of the life I wanted. But the guilt over my own parents lingered. I sent them photos of Noah's Christmas play. No reply. One cold January night, Jordan and I sat on the balcony, wrapped in a blanket. He said, "You don't have to choose between them and us, but you do have to choose yourself." I kissed him then, long and sure, and whispered the words I had been holding back for months. "I love you too." The weight that lifted felt like breathing for the first time in years. The crisis peaked when my parents showed up unannounced on a Saturday. They had heard from a neighbor that Jordan was practically living with us. My father demanded I end this nonsense, or they would fight for visitation rights. The threat hung in the air like smoke. Noah hid behind my legs. Jordan stepped forward calmly and said, "We love your grandson. We will never keep him from you." My mother started crying. I told them I wouldn't hide anymore. They left without slamming the door this time, but the silence felt final. Spring brought new leaves and a fragile peace. My sister texted that Mom had started therapy. It wasn't forgiveness yet, but it was a crack in the wall. Jordan and I took Noah to the same playground where everything began. Watching my son swing higher than ever while Jordan pushed him gently, I realized how much had changed. The man who once panicked at the word gay now held his partner's hand in public and didn't flinch when people stared. Work offered me a promotion that included more flexible hours, so I could be home more. I accepted. Jordan finished a big project and surprised us with tickets to a family-friendly baseball game. Noah wore a little jersey with both our names on the back. In the stands, surrounded by cheering fans, Jordan leaned over and kissed my temple. No one batted an eye. The normalcy of it all brought tears to my eyes. My parents showed up at Noah's spring concert without warning. They sat in the back row. Afterward, Noah ran to them with his handmade card. My mother hugged him tight, then looked at me across the auditorium. She gave a small nod. It wasn't everything, but it was enough for now. That night, the three of us sat on the couch eating ice cream. Noah asked if Jordan could stay forever. Jordan looked at me, waiting. I smiled and said, "Yeah, buddy. I think he can." The kiss Jordan gave me after Noah went to bed tasted like every future I had been afraid to dream of. The journey wasn't over. There would be more hard conversations, more sideways glances, more nights when the old fears tried to creep back. But for the first time, I wasn't facing them alone. I had a partner who saw all of me and loved me anyway. I had a son who was learning that love came in all shapes. And I had finally learned the hardest lesson of all. The truth doesn't break you when you stop running from it. True or false? A single father's decision to embrace his authentic self with another man will ultimately strengthen his bond with his son.